Just being able to sit out at night without any equipment, you're just there under the stars. You'll be able to see these little streaks of light going across. It's just a really cool experience to be part of, I guess, this natural fireworks display going on.
Welcome to Experiences You Should Have, your how-to guide for amazing experiences. I'm your host, Gail Manasco, and right now we are in a very interesting time in history. We're not traveling, we're staying home more, and trying to learn life in this new normal. Now, there are still amazing experiences that can be had while social distancing, and one of those experiences is coming up very soon, the Perseids Meteor Shower. And for this episode of Experiences You Should Have, my guest is Nick Strobel. He has been teaching astronomy at Bakersfield College for 24 years and is the director of the William M. Thomas Planetarium at Bakersfield College. He has a PhD in astronomy from the University of Washington, and he is the author of Astronomy Notes website. So clearly, Nick knows what he is talking about. Well, let's get on with the interview. Well, welcome, Nick, to Experiences You Should Have podcast.
Yes, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, this is so exciting. And I'm really excited about this episode on Perseids Meteor Shower, because this is something that people can do if they can find, dark skies, something that can be done while social distancing. And the Perseids Meteor Shower is coming up. So I am just very curious if you can just tell our listeners about one of your favorite times of seeing Perseids Meteor Shower.
Well, I was thinking of a couple of times. One was, I guess, maybe my earliest memory of it was sleeping out at night, and it was, growing up in Boise, Idaho. It was a nice summer night, and every now and then our parents would allow us to just put out sleeping bags and sleep out, in the backyard. And so,
Yes.
one of the times we chose was for the Perseid meteor shower, and so just trying to stay awake, looking up at the sky, and Boise at that time was didn't have a whole lot of light pollution, so we could see a lot of stars, and um, and 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 just staring up at the sky for, well, I don't know, at least an hour, hour or two. Probably by then I went to sleep, but before then, just seeing the nice star sprinkles of stars all around, and then every now and then you'd see this bright flash just across the sky, and it's like, oh my gosh. And for me, it was like, I hadn't seen the meteor shower before. It's like, oh, they're right. There are these little things that just happen very quickly, and you don't you can't predict when the next one's going to be, so you got to stay awake, and and you're just looking off, and oh, there's something. And usually it's off sort of in the corner of your eye. It's not exactly right where you're looking, because these things are sort of random in the way they're going to do it. Now, we do know that if you were to sort of trace back the paths of all those little streaks for the Perseids, they would center on a location near Perseus, which is why they're called the Perseids. But you can look anywhere in the sky. So we were looking at this section of sky. We just see them just swoop, and that was really cool. And then I think another time, a bit more recently, was with my wife. We went up to a local observing site that's outside of town, so we had nice dark skies, and staying up there until about it was probably around 11:30. my wife is not as much of a night owl as I am, so she
Hmm.
was making, sort of, okay, it's okay. We've seen some. Now it's time to go. All right, just a little bit more. Okay, 10 minutes, and then you keep going. But anyway, we were able to stay up there, and nice, comfortable temperatures, and just nice dark sky, and just every now and then just seeing these things go over, and some of them, of course, quite bright. It's like, oh my gosh, that did that cast a shadow? I don't know, it was really bright. But you just see these things flick on across this, a good stretch of the sky, and every now and then there'll be one that will sort of linger there. It's like, it's either there's it can be because there's some little bits just of it left, and so it's almost like, sizzling type of a thing across the sky, so there's a little bit of actual residue. Another, it's like almost it burns your retina. Sometimes the things are so bright that it's like, you get a little, but most of them, of course, much much dimmer than that. But every now and then the Perseids can put on a really good show. Of they're known to have the most fireballs of any of the different meteor showers. But yeah, just being able to uh, sit out at night without any equipment. You're just there under the stars, and if you're there long enough, you'll see the different constellations rise up in the east, and then you'll be able to see these little streaks of light going across, and it's just a really cool experience to be part of. I guess this natural fireworks display going on.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's just something that's happening naturally, and this happens every year.
Yeah.
And can you explain to our listeners really what is the Perseids meteor shower? Why does it happen every year?
Yeah, yeah, it happens. Well, with any meteor shower, the Earth is running through the dust trail left behind by a comet.
Hmm.
And for the Perseids, it's Comet Swift-Tuttle is the name of that one, and it it has an orbit that comes pretty close to the Earth's orbit, and so we've got this little dust, little bits, this is about the size of a grain of sand or smaller,
Hmm.
and you have these little bits just left along in the trail. And so for the Perseids, it's Swift Tuttle, and that so when the Earth goes through that dust trail, then whatever particular direction we seem to be headed in, at that time, it'll look like you have these meteors are coming from a particular point in space, and just for us going through the Swift Tuttle dust trail left behind, it appears that all these things are coming from like the Perseus constellation, just sort of right, I don't know, sort of upper left part of the Perseids, and so because it's the Earth running into this dust trail, you are going to have these meteor showers occurring at the same time, every year. And there's just about approximately one, major meteor shower every month, and there are several smaller ones every month. But the Perseids are the really spectacular ones that everyone's heard of. Well, number
Hmm.
one, it's during summer break for a lot of kids,
Hmm.
growing up,
Hmm.
and of course it's during the summertime when it's comfortable to go outside. So there are a lot more people just doing that, and yeah, I'd say, having it be during summer break, so a lot of kids are, available. They aren't told to go
Hmm.
inside, it's time to study or anything. Oh, no, no, it's summer break. We get to stay out late, and it being then a really nice, comfortable temperatures, at night, for at least here in the northern hemisphere.
Right.
Um, that makes it a well-known meteor shower, and also it puts on a good show.
Right.
As far as meteor showers go, it's got to be there in the top, two or three.
Now, about how many meteors can you see an hour when it's peaking?
Well, yeah, okay, it really depends on the how dark your sky is.
Uh
All
huh.
right, so you've got the city lights to consider, and is the moon out? Um, this year, the the Perseids will peak when the moon is in the third quarter or last quarter phase, and so that means the moon is going to be rising up, after midnight. All right, so that means in the sort of the early part of the evening, you don't have to worry about any moonlight washing out anything. But of course, if you can get on outside of the city, well away from any of the city lights, and so you have a nice dark sky where you can see, say, all of the stars of the Little Dipper, not the Big Dipper, which you can see even from a big city, but the Little Dipper. If you can see all of the stars there, and if you can see the Milky Way, okay, you've got a nice dark sky,
Yeah.
and I mean, those are the best conditions for observing meteors. If you're in the city, well, the Perseids, some of them can get bright enough that you can see them, even with the city lights. But you're not going to have as many. All right, so with all the, I guess, these caveats, you can see somewhere between maybe 40 to 70 meteors per hour if you've got really good eyes. Now,
Wow.
my eyes aren't as good as some others, so I'm going to see maybe 30 to 40 per
Mm-hmm.
hour.
Mm-hmm.
But when you've got some of these that are and particularly with the Perseids being known for having some nice spectacular fireballs, and really bright meteors, because seem to have a little bit bigger chunks than some of the other meteor showers, so they'll have some really bright ones. You're going to find more of those with the
Mm-hmm.
Perseids.
Now, when is the Perseids meteor shower peaking in 2020?
Okay, in 2020, it's going to peak on the night of August 11th to 12th.
And what is the full date range of the Perseids meteor shower?
Well, gosh, it's about a month long. I mean,
Wow.
it's really, they're saying that, they're active now, and it's going to be active through the middle of August.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Perseids have a pretty broad, it's a pretty broad dust trail. So they'll be going on for quite a while. And so, there's some other meteor showers that, no, you really need to be there right on that particular date, in order for you to see anything. But no, again, and this is another reason why they're so spectacular. It's like, okay, if you miss the peak, well, there's always tomorrow, and
Mm-hmm.
it'll be good.
Right.
Uh, yeah.
Now, you mentioned finding dark sky. Are there good resources out there for people to find dark sky?
Well, I tell you, the thing to do is to try and connect with your local astronomy club and see where they go for their different observing places.
Uh
And
huh.
the local astronomy, they're found in just about every city. There's going to be some sort of astronomy club.
Yeah.
And you can go to, was it nightsky.jpl.nasa.gov? It's the Night Sky Network, and look up your local astronomy club. That would be the best way to find a nice location close to you. But again, if you can just get out of the city, say 10, if you can get out like 10 to 15 miles away from the city, and it would be better to get up at maybe a little bit higher elevation. Um, so yeah, yeah, and so for us here, I'm in Bakersfield, California, so I'm right down almost at sea level,
Uh huh.
in a really dusty area. So I have to get up out of the valley, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll drive out about 45 minutes to 60 minutes outside of town just to get to where I can get away from all all the glow that we have, because Bakersfield's a
Mm-hmm.
pretty big city. But again, if you can get to a spot where you can see the Little Dipper stars,
Mm-hmm.
all of the stars of the Little Dipper, it's the one that has the North Star at the tip of the handle. Um, and or if you can see if you can see a lot of the Milky Way, you've got definitely a nice dark sky. But again, I would say that try and find your local astronomy club, and ask them. And usually, the astronomy club are, I don't know, they're pretty, would you say, what, fervent believers in science evangelism.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
really want to connect people to the cosmos. And so they're usually very willing to say, "Oh yeah, go here," and like what, and for meteor observing, you don't need any sort of equipment. But for other sorts of astronomy observing, they're really usually very willing to have use some of their equipment, or at least
Uh-huh.
look through their telescopes, because they just really like sharing the night sky. Um,
Yeah, I used to go to
yeah,
star parties
yeah, star
and
parties. They do this all the time.
yeah.
We certainly do that here in with the current astronomical society. We've got well, not during the time of COVID,
Right.
unfortunately, but before then, we would be doing public star parties once or twice a month. We would
Yeah.
try and do it around first quarter moon, so we would have a nice moon to look at least, and we would do it right in town, so people didn't have to drive very far at all to get to us. So it was a nice, convenient location for the public star parties. But then when we wanted to do some, more observing of
Yeah.
galaxies and gas clouds and all that, then we would go outside of town. But again,
Yeah.
just we set the stuff up, and if you had new club members just really new to astronomy, it's like, oh yeah, take a look. So what do you see here in my scope? And it
Right.
was great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We used to go out to the middle of nowhere, Florida, and members of the local astronomy club would break out their very large telescopes
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and they would point it towards different things and show you, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. uh, and so when we're talking about Perseids meteor shower, we're looking at meteors, but you're an astronomy professor, and I feel like we need to bring some astronomy 101 here for our listeners.
Okay.
Uh, can you break down kind of the difference in between a comet, an asteroid, a meteor, meteorite, meteoroid? Yeah, break it down for us.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. Well, we start with asteroid. An asteroid is any space rock that's larger than about a meteor across. So and meteorites. Well, okay. There's meteoroid, there's
Yeah.
meteor, and then there's meteorite.
Yes.
So when when asteroids bump into each other, little chips will break off. And if it's less than a meter across, and why a meter, it's just an arbitrary distinction. Okay, if it's a small thing, it's a meteoroid. If it is larger, it's an asteroid. And where do you draw the line? We're just going to say a meter across, and we're fine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
okay, so you got little chips of these asteroids. Will break off when they hit each other. And while it's in space, we call that chunk of an asteroid a meteoroid. So OID on the end.
Hmm.
And then as that chip goes through the atmosphere and is producing this glowing trail, it's called a meteor. And then, if it survives passage through the atmosphere and reaches the ground, it's called a meteorite. All right, so ITE on the end.
Hmm.
And while it's in the atmosphere, there is, I guess, nothing on the end.
Right.
It's just meteor. All right, so you have those. And then a comet then is, it's another small body, in our solar system made of more volatile materials mixed in, well, dust and rocks mixed in, a much more volatile materials like water, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, ammonia, methane, those things that, those materials that if, say, were they were here on the surface of the Earth, they would be a gas.
Mm-hmm.
So usually the comet, they live far out from the sun, so they're frozen. But when they come on in, if they can get in close enough to the sun, then they will warm up, and they will, uh, those volatile materials, again, like water, carbon dioxide, methane, ammonia, things like carbon monoxide, and these ices, they will, what we call sublimate. That is, they'll go directly from being frozen ice to being gas. And as they do that, then they will, the dust, rock, and rock bits that are embedded all mixed in there, well, they'll get released, shot on out. And often these things will have some pretty powerful jets, squirting material on out, as they're really warming up. And those little bits then will, sort of just trail along there in the comet's orbit. And so after a while, after a comet has gone by the sun many hundreds of times, it can eventually just sort of, sort of peter out, just run out of volatile materials. And some of the asteroids are actually, now dead comets. Um, yeah, there's, what was it, 3200 Phaeton, if I remember the name correctly, is an example of one that, there's a meteor shower associated with it, but we now know it's an asteroid now, because it's no longer active. Um, and in some cases, then, it's like, well, is it a comet or is it an asteroid? Well, a comet is a small body that can get active because it still has some of those frozen ices in it. But when a comet becomes dead, it has no more of those ices embedded in it. It's going to be called an asteroid. Now, there are then asteroids that have always been asteroids. They've never were active whatsoever. So sometimes it's a little bit hard to maybe distinguish one from the other, and you just have to, study them up close to find out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. And I'm just curious, when viewing the Perseids meteor shower, is there a part of the Earth where you can't see this meteor shower if you have dark sky?
Oh, um,
Like, can the southern hemisphere see it?
they should still be able to see some of those. I'm just, because the radiant, or where the meteors appear to come from in a meteor shower, the
Mm-hmm.
radiant for the Perseids is right there in the Perseus constellation. So if you want to see where the radiant is, well, that you would need to be in the northern hemisphere. But with, these things will shoot across the entire sky. So I think they're in the southern hemisphere. um, you should still be able to see those. Yeah, yeah, you should still be able to do that.
That is so interesting. This worldwide phenomenon that people can just go outside and see from dark sky.
Yeah,
Um,
and you don't need any equipment to see it. All you need are your eyes,
yeah.
and, well, a comfortable chair or a sleeping bag or something like. But that's it. This is really low tech. You do not want to use binoculars. You do not want to use telescope. You really need to just use your eyes, and I mean, and that's really nice. Meteor shower is, well, I guess, true. Democratic. Anybody can,
Hmm.
can see it.
So, what would really be the preferred hours to be viewing it during the peak days?
Okay, so for this, one in 2020, it would be best to observe it before the moon rises. Um, and so that would be, before midnight. Now,
Okay.
usually, you'll hear that most meteors are going to be peaking after midnight, and the reason for that is that the Earth has rotated your part of the Earth to being going directly right into the stream. Before midnight, all you're really going to get are much more of the faster meteors, the ones that can sort of catch up to the Earth. But when after midnight, your part of the Earth is going right in the same direction that the Earth is moving, and so you can get even the quote slower meteors reaching the Earth. But this year, we also have that a third quarter or last quarter moon rising up after midnight, and so that is going to dampen some of the meteors just because of the sky glow. So you
Mm-hmm.
got sort of these competing effects, going on. As a general rule, you want to be doing it sort of like after midnight. But because of what the moon's going to be doing, I'd say you probably want to do it before midnight. Well, okay, that's great. So that means you don't have to get up really late at night to have probably the better show. You want to do it before midnight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, that's great. Now, do you have any tips for maybe anybody that wants to take pictures of the meteor shower?
Whew. Taking pictures. Well, you know, it is. Well, you want to use, I guess, a regular, digital SLR camera, one that can leave the shutter open for maybe at least a few seconds. Not too much longer than that, and you're just gonna point it up at a section of the sky and just sort of keep clicking the thing and hopefully uh, you will happen to catch a meteor or two going across your field of view. But as I say, we can't predict where a particular one is going to go on across.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, uh, if you really want to try and catch a meteor on film, you get multiple cameras and you're just click, 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 click. just and it's just electrons. You just use up your memory. Just and hopefully you'll get. I mean, really, that's really what it comes down to. So you see these shots that are in the astronomy magazines, and those are ones that either they're a composite, so they've put um, different shots together to make it look like, there was all these things coming from all over the place. It's like, well, no, that was one time here, and then we took another shot here, but they had it pointed sort of in the same direction, and they just took a number of photos until they found some that, oh yeah, boy, there was a meteorite in there.
Uh-huh.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so that's what you'd have to do. And but it's a good thing though that you're doing it at night, and because night shots don't take as much memory,
Uh-huh.
because it's black sky. So
Yeah.
black, that's going to take any much memory at all. You can have little points of light. Well, as far as a JPEG picture goes, you aren't using up much memory to take something like that. So yeah, you just click, 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 and just spend your time clicking away on it, and
Yeah.
you'll eventually get something in there.
Fine. Absolutely fine. And just curious about the rest of 2020. What celestial events are on your radar to try to go see?
Huh. I was, trying to think of ones that, the things that I was hoping to do was actually going to an eclipse.
Ooh.
That was down in Chile and Argentina.
Right.
So, and this was like in December. Well, okay, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Sorry, with all the COVID stuff, so I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
travel down to that. Um, the On December 21st, there is going to be a real close meeting of Jupiter and Saturn. We call it a conjunction.
Uh-huh.
Um, that happens about every 20 years. We'll get a nice one. And so now, however, this one they're going to be pretty close to the sun on our sky when they're doing that. So that's going to be a little bit of a downer with that one. But when you got you got the two largest planets in our solar system getting really close together in the sky. They're gonna look like a really bright star. Um, you would look for them really low in the west just after sunset. And actually, on December 16th, there's going to be a nice waxing crescent moon right below them. So, just you want to talk about pictures, that would be a nice shot to get there. And in fact, that particular conjunction, I think, is going to be the closest conjunction since the one they had in 1623. So
Wow.
there's that. Now, yeah, I already mentioned about the total solar eclipse that unfortunately I'm not going to go to, but that
Yeah.
was December 14th. There was that happening. So for those listeners there, and of course in Southern Hemisphere, they won't have to travel far for that one, but check that one out. Um, yeah, as far as what's left, well, even before the Perseids, there is the Delta Aquarid meteor shower that is actually going on right now. It peaks on the night of July 29th and 30th.
Oh.
Now, the moon's going to be in first quarter, which means it will set after about 1 a.m. All right, well, that means when the Earth has rotated your part of the Earth to be in the direction of Earth's motion, the moon should be below your horizon. So you might be able to see some of those. And that one you can see up to roughly about 25 meteors per hour.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite as much as, the Perseids, but it's another one to check out. Um, there is the other meteor showers that are happening. The Orionid meteor shower is going to peak on the night of October 20th and 21st.
Mm-hmm.
The moon's going to be at a waxing crescent. Okay, crescent. You got the little sliver, and the waxing means that as the days or nights go by, you'll see
Mm-hmm.
more and more of it lit up. So it's getting bigger and bigger. So waxing crescent. But if it's a waxing crescent, it means it'll set pretty early in the night. All right, great. So that means you're not gonna have to worry about moon glow.
Right.
That one, it's not doesn't produce as many as the Perseids, but you'll still see some. I think that one may be up to 15 per hour. The the Leonids this year will also be in a favorable time in which there's a waxing crescent moon, so it's going to set
Right.
soon after sunset. So that means then you won't have to worry about moon glow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then there are the Geminids that are December 13th, 14th. Those will have the moon at new phase. Okay, well, if it's new phase, then it's not up at all at night, so you won't have to worry about moon glow with them. The Geminids, they can be a really nice meteor shower. They can produce as many or maybe even more than what the Perseids will do. Now they aren't going to have as many of the fireballs, the big bright ones going on across, but they do. They usually put on a pretty good show. So you want to get out away from town with that one. Now, of course, the drawback for that is it's the middle of December, so it's going to be cold.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So yeah, those are some of the celestial things that are happening, and then of course, I'm really looking forward to some of the launches that are going to be happening of spacecraft that are going to be heading to Mars, and that's going to be happening here at the end of well. Actually, I think we were supposed to have one with the United Arab Emirates that was supposed to launch. And then NASA's Perseverance is going to be taking off at the end of this month. So I'm really looking forward to those two missions.
Fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just feel like looking up at the night sky is a great hobby uh, that people can do, especially now.
Oh, yeah. 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 Well, yeah. And, if during these COVID times, you want to be outside if, so that you're not enclosed,
Right.
and if you could still do some observing with people, social distanced there. But if you're doing it outside, that's the way to go. If you're going to have any sort of gathering with people, you got to do it outside.
Yeah. And just curious. So if people are watching the Perseids meteor shower soon, and maybe they're looking at the constellations and they're like, well, maybe I should be doing this more often, or going out and looking at the night sky. Do you have any recommendations for maybe a beginner telescope for people who want to, try a new hobby?
Well, okay. What I would suggest that people do is to again connect up with their local astronomy club,
Mm-hmm.
and at a star party, look through some of the different telescopes. And any of the members are going to be really willing to tell you about their telescope and the process that they went through to decide. Some of it has to do with well, how much money are you going to want to spend? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and if you get too big of a telescope, you're not going to want to take it out. Well, telescopes feel real bad if they aren't used. So,
Yeah.
you want to start out with a smaller scope. Say, and telescope sizes are measured by the diameter of the tube, okay, not the length of it. So it's the diameter of the tube. So, a telescope that's say like 4 to 6 inches across is usually the better one to start out with. Well, actually, maybe even starting out with binoculars might be the way to go, just to sort of learn the sky.
Yeah.
When you can see it under a little bit higher magnification and seeing just a lot more stars. So becoming familiar with that away. But you can get a decent sized telescope that say anywhere from like 4 to 6 inches across for uh, $200 to $300. Um, and I'd say like Orion or Mead or Celestron are some of the ones to check out. But there are other telescope companies as well that make some really good telescopes. But again, I would check with your local astronomy club. Uh, my local one, the Current Astronomical Society, if you are a member, and it's real cheap to become a member. If
Mm-hmm.
you're new members, they get first dibs on the club telescopes. Some of our members have actually built telescopes, and we have ones that are like a 6 inch diameter one that's like an 8 inch, and I think maybe the largest one is either a 13 or a 14 inch diameter one. And they're made to be just really portable. Of course, the bigger they are, it's a little bit less portable. Um, but we give them first dibs on it, and that would be the thing to do to sort of get used to using a telescope. And the only cost for that would be the annual membership in the club, which is really dirt cheap. I think ours is like $25 a month or a
Nice.
year. I mean,
Yeah.
$25 a year.
Okay. Yeah.
So real cheap. And I think other astronomy clubs are probably the same way. Have similar things like that. But at least being able to look through the different telescopes, and the members, they'll usually tell you, well, yeah, this is a good feature of this telescope, but I have problems with this one.
Mm-hmm.
This, there's pros and cons to it. So part of it is going to depend on how much you want to spend to it. just try and buy from a reputable company. If you go to skyandtelescope.com, they have a section on their website all dealing with reviews of
Mm-hmm.
different equipment, things to be looking for in buying a telescope. I have stuff on my website, astronomynotes.com, about telescopes and basic properties of telescopes, and then things to look at for buying. But really, I think the main thing is that you want to buy a telescope that you're going to want to use. So it's got to
Mm-hmm.
be portable enough for you to want to go out and observe. Because if you
Mm-hmm.
get something that is complicated to set up, it might have a lot of great features there, but if it doesn't get used, it's a very sad telescope.
Yeah.
So
And we do not want sad
no, we do not
telescopes.
want sad telescopes.
No. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Hopefully, we've ignited some sparks or um, really
Yeah.
inspired people to go out and look at the night sky.
Yeah, I hope that people will go out and take a look at the Perseids. They should put on a really good show. And again, you don't need any equipment for it. You just need
Yeah.
your eyes.
Yeah.
And just another thing I would suggest is you go out with at least one other person, because there's no way that you can see the entire sky. And as you're getting a little bit tired, you can nudge each other to stay awake.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Well, I will be out there watching and hope my listeners out there will be as well. Thank you. Thank you again. And would love to have you on the show again in the future and maybe
Well,
talk about
great.
a different celestial event.
That would be great. Well, I'm glad that we were able to connect and do this.
All right. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Thank you so much for listening to Experiences You Should Have podcast. And if you're out there watching the Perseids Meteor shower, then I highly recommend you downloading the app Sky Map, and that can help you locate constellations, maybe help you understand what is in the sky above you. Because yes, you might be looking at lots of meteors, but then you might be like, well, what is that over there? And you might discover something new and maybe ignite a new passion for the sky, which I feel like this is a great thing to learn, especially now. So go contact your local astronomy club. Maybe learn more about the night sky. And if you want to review anything that you heard about today, go to experiencesyoushouldhave.com, click on episodes, and there we'll have full show notes about this episode there. And we are a growing podcast, so if you could please share this podcast with a friend, neighbor, people that you come across, please tell them about Experiences You Should Have. And if you have an interesting experience that can be replicated that you would like to share, please contact me. Go to experiencesyoushouldhave.com, click on contact, and send me a note about that unique experience around the world. And until our next adventure.